Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Gross, and today I'm going to teach you my flipping techniques, what to use, and how to do it. Alright, first of all, we're going to go ahead and start with putting our bullet head on. What I try to do is I try to find a bullet head to the size that it's going to match the worm. That's pretty much what you see right there. And then find you a hook that you like. My preferably hook that I enjoy using is this one right here, where you can see with the bent barb on there. It works really well for me. So what we'll do is put the line through the bullet head. Like that. See where it's like on that. And then we're going to use the clinch knot. We'll stick it in the eye of the hook, and I'm going to turn it 7 times. You run it through the hook like that. See how I did that? Then you spin it 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're going to lick the line, and at the base of the hook, you'll see a hole. You're going to run your line through the base of that hole, and when you do that, it's going to cause a loop up here in the middle. You're going to run your line through the middle of that hole. I'm going to run it through the hole in the bottom. In the hole in the middle, you're going to run it. See that hole in the middle? I'm going to run that line through that hole. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you moisten the line. That way it'll tighten better. You're going to grab that piece right there with your teeth, and you're going to pull the line down. I usually wrap the line around my fingers twice like that, so I can get a little bit more pulling strength. Then I take this piece of the line that's on the hook, and I'll pull it with my teeth. You see right there? And that's how the knot looks. And what I'll usually do is I bite the line, and I leave about a 1/2 inch on there, just a little 1/2 inch. It all depends on what you want to do, but I always leave at least a 1/2 inch, and it looks just like that. Then I'll get my flipping worm, the flipping worm I'm going to use is something like this. I like to go as small as possible for flipping that I can get away with, because when you're flipping, you want that bass to be able to swallow it up on one gulp. So the rig I'm going to use on this bait is the Texas rig. So I'm going to bring it through the top of the head. Now this is a smaller bait, so I'm not going to go down as far. I'm going to go down about that far, as you see right there. I'm going to pull it all the way down to the shank. Where it looks just like that, as you see. Then I'm going to take the hook I'm going to stick it right at the bottom. Now, sometimes on the smaller baits, you don't have to go down this far. I could have came out right there at the tip of the head, but I chose to come down here in the bottom. It all depends on what you want to do, but you want to leave enough room for your hook to where you can still get it through the worm. And we're dealing with a small bait, so you don't want to go too far down on your plastic. So my bait looks like this, and I got the hook all the way through the worm, and I have the barb sticking out just a little bit. You don't want it out too much, just a little bit. That way it helps you go through the plastic. Next, I have the bullet head. See how it sets like that? And I'll go ahead and I'll take a toothpick. Some of these split shots, bullet heads, they have screws with springs on them you can use. I just take the toothpick and I stick it in like that, and then I break it off. Now you could either come through the bottom, but I like to come in through the top. And then you just slide the toothpick down. Take that toothpick and push it down in there. Where it looks just like that. Now what happens is, because I use it in a toothpick, the wood is going to swell up as soon as it hits the water, and it's going to cause that weight to stay. That's called a Texas rig. When you're flipping, there's many colors that you can use. The three most popular colors you'll find that work really well is, you want to use black, the purple color, and the pumpkin seed. Those are your good colors you want to use for flipping. It works really well. All right, let me get set up, and I'll show you how to flip it. Okay, what you do is you want to find you the dollar pads. You see these lily pads? We call these dollar pads, or you can call them lily pads. The lily pads, believe it or not, underneath these lily pads, I can show you, the bugs like to hang out underneath these lily pads. I don't know, I'll see if I can show you that. See right here? Let's see. See right here on the pads. I can't know if I could show you on that one. But underneath these pads, when you flip them over, there's one that's flipped upside down. See all the algae that's around it? Well, there's parasites that hang around these. And the fish will come underneath these lily pads, and they like to eat the worms and the parasites. That's why they're hanging in the pads. The other thing they like to use the lily pads for is an ambush spot. So what you'll do is you'll take you only want to take out, I usually put out about maybe 5 feet of line. Take it down to where your arm comes even with about your chest. I usually use about 5 feet. And then see how I'm tossing? You want to toss that into the lily pads. Just like that. Now once you've tossed it in the lily pads, you want to let the bait sink and stay down there for about 30 seconds. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull up and let it go down. You're going to pull up and let it go down. You're going to pull up and let it go down. Now, another thing you can do is you can pull out about 5 feet of line, leave your spool open, and hang on to your line. I usually get out about 4 feet. And you can take this bait, flip it over there to that pad, give it a couple taps, bring it up, go over another lily pad, and let it sink. Then go over here to another lily pad and let it sink. What you want to do is you want to go up where the lily pads are, and then you want to let it sink. Every so often, take the rod and bump it a couple times. Makes the worm look like it's alive. You want to take that worm, you see that worm there, it's got a curly tail on it. You want some kind of action on the tail. You can do it with a straight worm, but I prefer the curly tail. And once again, you just throw it out, let it sink to the bottom. Now I have this spool on this reel open to where I can let that line go out. So if a fish hits that line, he can run out a little bit to where I can let the line go like that, take my pull, my reel the slack, and tighten it until I get to the bite, and then wait and then set the hook. So let's do that again. So what you do is you'll take the line out about 4 feet like this with the bait. You'll toss it over there to the lily pads. You let it sink. I still got the spool on the reel open, and I got my thumb on here. See how I got this hand? I got this hand holding the line. So it looks a little bit like that. Let's see if I can show you. So it looks like that, but add another 4 feet to it. So go up, bring it up, and bring it back down. And you're going to go back up again, and you're going to come back down. And you're going to come back up again, and you're going to come back down. You want to bring that line till it gets to you, then take your reel and tighten it up just a little bit. Then push your button on your reel again, and take out about 4 feet of line, and then swing your pull. See how I'm swinging? I'm getting into this. See how I'm going into the swinging motion? So I'll go ahead and swing the bait out, and I let it sit for about 30 seconds. I'll reel it in just a little bit, and then I'll bring it back over a lily pad, bring it back down. Go back up to a lily pad, let it go back down. We'll do it over here a little bit better. Whenever I'm flipping, I like to flip in some of the heaviest and nastiest cover. On these lily pads now, they have these cuts. You see how you got these cuts here, right here? You want to try not to get your line and your weight in that, because then your worm will get stuck in there. So what I do is I got the line, I got the reel open, and I got the line in my hand, and I'm taking the worm and I'm bringing it up over the lily pad. Then I'm letting it go back down till I get another opening. Now, suppose you got a hit right there. I know I got a hit, so I let the line go like that, and then I go back to the reel and I reel the line in just a little bit until I find out where the fish is at, where he's still bumping it, and then I go ahead and rear back and set the hook. There's different ways you can do it. That's a very popular technique. That's the one I use. But you want to find a lot of areas where you got dollar pads. You want to, again, open the spool, toss it over, let it sink to the bottom. I usually pull a little bit of line out till it sinks to the bottom. And then I wait about 30 seconds. Every so often, if you want, you can tighten the reel and then jerk it a couple times to give it a little bit of life. And then I reel it in just a little bit. I'll bring it back up. Then I'll let it go back down into the pad. And I'm going back up, and I'll let it go back down into the pad. Now sometimes a trick you can try is I'll bring it up to the lily pads, and I can still see it there on the lily pads, and I'll shake it a little bit. That'll get the fish's attention. It kind of looks like the worm is crippled. Then bring it back up, find you a hole in there, like that. Just kind of wiggle it until it goes back down. Once you get back down to the bottom, take your rod and just give it a couple jerks. Just a little bit. You're trying to add some life to that worm. And bring it back up. Find you another spot. Now, another trick you can use is pull the line out. Then I'll toss it over there to the lily pad. And I'll pull the line out until it sinks to the bottom. And I'll let it set. Then give it a couple taps. Let it go back down. Now I still got the spool open on the reel in case something hits it. And you can do that as you're coming closer to the boat or if you're on the shoreline. Then sometimes what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click the reel, and I'll reel the line in just a little bit and then go up and I'll go back down. Then I'll go back up and I'll go back down. Then I'll go back up and I'll go back down. That's a technique that you can use that's very effective. And see if you got sticks, that's a bonus. You see that? See those sticks over there? I'll take out about 4 feet of line and I'll toss it over there to the sticks like that. Then I'll go ahead and let the line out. See, I got those trees there. And then I'll let it sit there for 30 seconds, and then I'll go ahead and tighten the reel. And then I'll take the worm and with the line and jerk it a couple times. So I'm jerking it. And then I'll let it sit. You want to let it set as soon as you cast. That way it looks like the worm is maybe down there feeding. And you give it a couple taps, it looks like it's eating off the bottom. Then what I'll do is I'll go up. And then I'll go back down. And the curly tail on this plastic worm gives it life. So every time you're going up, the curly tail is giving life to the worm. So you go back up, then you go back down. Then you go back up, and go back down. And then give the worm a couple taps. Make it look like the worm is alive. Then bring it to you and go up and bring it back down. And you want to just do that continuously as you get closer to the boat, or if you're fishing off the shoreline, just keep bringing it until you get it. Sometimes you'll end up getting a hit as you're bringing it up and down, and you'll get a hit right there where the boat is, or where you're at. Let's go over here for a second. Let me walk over here. I saw a fish jump. I'll show you another technique that you can use. Let's go over here to where the water's a little bit open. Hold on a second. I'm walking through the water. Give me a second here. Now, what I'll do is I'll take the line and I'll take about 5 feet out and I'll cast it. Now, I'm on top of this real heavy, nasty stuff. Now, you can cast out and do this, and I just let the worm sit. And then, if you look, I'll take it and reel the worm on top of the vegetation. Then I'll let it sink. If I find a hole in there, I'll let it sink to the bottom. And then I'll bring it back up again. And I'll take it going across that vegetation. If you got real thick vegetation and grass, bring it, by all means, bring it all the way up to the top and run it across. And then as soon as and just keep tapping that worm up and down as you're going across that vegetation. Then you're going to let it sink. It makes it look like the worm is feeding on top of the water. And then I'll let it set, and then I'll bring the worm back up. And I'll bring it back on top of the vegetation, like that, and then I'll let it sink. As soon as it gets back in the hole, I'll give it a couple jerks, let it sink all the way down to the bottom, let it sit there for a little bit. And then I'll bring it up, go across some more vegetation. Then I'll let it sink. Find you a hole in those pads, let it sink. And then once it goes to the bottom, let it set, and give it a couple jerks. And then just bring it back up and do it like that, all the way back to the boat, or bring it back all the way to the to where you're at, to the shoreline. Works out really well. All right, those are my flipping techniques. The other thing I wanted to show you is when you're flipping, you can go with a bait caster reel like this. I prefer the bait caster reel. That works really well for me. Or if you don't want to use that, you can use the other reel. And I use this for lures a lot, and you can use it for worms a lot. Some people prefer the open face. The reason why the open face is a good reel is, let's say you're fishing a very windy day and you're having a hard time casting that line out. You can take that open face and just flip it, and the line comes off really smooth. The bait caster reel is kind of tricky. You're going to have to spend some time on that reel until you find the technique that works for you. That's the best I can tell you. That's all I got for you. I hope these fishing tips work out for you. Get out there, catch some fish, take a kid fishing, and get that big one. I'm Steve Gross. This is Steve G Fishing. And thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you on my next video.